Welcome to the Women's Voice, a platform for learning, advocacy, and awareness on issues affecting women of Uganda and beyond.
Good afternoon to our viewer. You're welcome to the Women's Voice. We are glad that you have chosen to be here at this time to learn. My name is Annette Nyonyintono, and I'll be moderating today's discussion. And I'm humbled that I still have life and that I'm here yet again to share and also to learn. Our topic today is going to be on men and parenting. And as a person, I'm really excited to be learning and also understanding what it means for men to be part of parenting and nurturing children. And today we have our special guests, and we are so humbled to have you, Hassan. Welcome to the show. I'll let you introduce yourself. I'll let you introduce yourself so that the viewer can understand who you are and what you do before we move on to our discussion.
Thank you very much, Annette. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night from wherever you are viewing the Women's Voice. My name is Hassan Sekajolo, and I am a team leader at Ubuntu Gender Equality Network, that is famously known as Ubuntu, the organization. I am here today and very glad to be on the show to talk about a very interesting and growing area on men and parenting. I have quite a number of years doing work with men and boys, to be precise, over 8 years working with men and boys. And this is an area that I have found very interesting, but not always really given a lot of focus and attention. And there are quite a number of gains that we can get from this area if we only focus and get to understand it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Hassan, I think that now we can move on to our discussion. I've heard a lot of people believe and think that parenting is a job for women. And traditionally, we've seen women engage more in the role of parenting. And, even when men are present. So, and also there's a verse that people usually relate to when it comes to women and parenting. And in Proverbs, I don't know, I think that I'm a Bible reader, and but it says that a good son brings joy to the father, but a foolish son brings sorrow to a mother. And a lot of people connect it to believing that it is entirely a woman's responsibility to nurture and parent a child. And so if probably a child doesn't turn out well, we will put the blame to the mother. So that's where I want us to reflect and begin from, for us to even understand what is parenting, or what, because I believe that for everyone has their different way of defining or even understanding what parenting is. Maybe that is where we can begin from.
Thank you very much, Annette. For me, parenting is about two things. And that is what I keep teaching. That is what I keep talking about when I'm dealing with parenting. Parenting is about two things. It's about teaching and guiding. Okay? That's how I define parenting. Teaching and guiding of who? Of children that are biological to you or not biological to you. And for me, that's an important distinction. That parenting is teaching and guiding of children who are biological to you and not biological to you. Once we understand that parenting is about teaching and guiding, then we can be able to assess our parenting standards. Then we can be able to assess our parenting styles. Then we can be able to assess the system that we are using to do parenting as a family, as a community, and as a nation as a whole. So, back to what you talked about, parenting has for many centuries been looked at as a women's role. That is correct. There are lots of scholarly work around why is it like that in the Bible? Why is it like that in the Quran? Why is it like that in the Jews? And. There are lots of arguments around that. But for the show, we want to say that parenting is not a woman's role. Entirely a woman's role. It is not entirely a woman's role. And we shall get deeper to understand why is it not entirely a woman's role. We should not put the negative consequences out of parenting on women. It is not fair. For many, many centuries, men have escaped their role and position in parenting. They have always escaped, and there are factors that have helped men to escape their role in parenting. Okay? One of those factors is what you have talked about, the issue of religion. The moment the religion does not consider parenting as a men's role, then it is aiding men to escape parenting roles. So these are some of the things that we need to interrogate and be able to get back to parenting. But I want to use this opportunity to also say that there's been a lot of work going on within Uganda to try and standardize, streamline, but also put focus on parenting. Lots of partners, including myself, we've been working with the Ministry of Gender. Ministry of Gender has been supported with development partners to try and make sure this whole concept around parenting is something that we hold dear as Ugandans and put a lot of attention to. So we have been able to get parenting guidelines for this country in Uganda. We do have the national parenting guidelines. We then moved on to say that we need a policy around the family so that the guidelines that have been developed, so that we have also developed the agenda, the parenting agenda, okay? So anybody who wants to do parenting work in this country, there's a harmonized agenda of how this work gets done. But also most recently, we are now concluding the parenting manual. If somebody wants to do parenting work in Uganda, what does it look like? How do you go through it? And many, many other developments are coming out, especially for us who are very passionate around parenting work. But specifically for this program, I'm here to talk about men and parenting. And throughout the process I've talked about, I have been in these processes just to let everybody appreciate the role of men in parenting, but also to raise the profile of men in parenting. And I am happy that all the materials that the ministry has developed really put focus on men and their role in parenting. So when we talk about men and parenting, what are we talking about? I am going to talk about three things, just three things. Number one, we are talking about presence. You as a male parent, are you present? Now, presence does not mean to be in the house. That's not what it means. Presence, when we talk about men and parenting, we are talking about you are available and the children and your partner connect with you emotionally. Your presence connects that emotional beat from the children. Presence also means you are there at the lowest moment of these children. When they are crying, when they are annoyed, when they are sad, you are there to guide and teach how to manage emotions. That is what we talk about presence. Now, presence is a huge challenge for men in parenting. Why? Some of the explanation is that because of the gender roles that have been prescribed on the man. Okay? Those gender roles have aided men to escape their parenting role, especially under presence, because they will say, we have to look for food. Okay? So these are some of the things we need to interrogate and make sure that we bring men back to their rightful position in parenting. Presence is very, very important, not only to the children, but to your partner. It's important that men are present in the life of children, but also in the life of their partner. This is how we build a strong, good family. But for us to be able to do parenting well, the people who are responsible for parenting need to have what is the parenting goal for this family? Whether they are biological children or non-biological children, what is the parenting goal? Because if you don't have a parenting goal, you are going to clash. The female and the male parent are going to clash. So there has to be established common ground. This is how we want to raise children that come through this house, that come through this family. This is the quality of children we want to raise. How does that help? It helps because both the male and female parent are going to reinforce messages, are going to reinforce actions, are going to reinforce whatever they are doing. Then the children will now know that when mommy says this, even if you go to daddy, daddy will say the same thing. That is how you are shaping behavior for children. Now, in parenting, we have different stages. We parent according to stages of age of children. That is how we parent. Parenting is not homogeneous. No, it is not. Parenting of a 0 to 5-year-old is different from parenting a 6 to 9-year-old. It's quite different. So we keep parenting in stages. And it is important that men understand, what is my role at every stage? What is my role? So if men do not understand that, they will quickly pass off and go and do other things simply because they don't understand what they have to do. So we have to work together, and this is what Women's Voice is doing. How do we spread this message out there so that people understand? Those who are soon to be fathers, those who are already fathers, those who are new fathers, those who are old fathers, how do they understand their parenting role at the different stages of the child? So that is quite important when we do parenting work, and especially when we do this work with men. But also with men, we also talk about presence right from pregnancy. Because there are roles that a man has to play during pregnancy as a part of the parenting process. There are roles a man has to play at birth as part of the parenting process, as part of presence. But when men do not understand these things, they will think that that is not my space. Of course, logically, if I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I think I am not needed. Okay? So we need to send this message out. For example, during pregnancy, men have a role to play. What role is that? Number one, you need to understand the different stages the pregnancy goes through. First trimester, what do you expect? How do you expect your partner to respond, react, and all other things? You need to have information about the first trimester so that you are present to provide support. Okay? The second trimester, because each trimester, a woman goes through different changes. So the man needs to understand all these things so that they are able to support. In the last trimester, this is when we talk to men about how do we form a birth plan. We sit down and form a birth plan together. When we form the birth plan, then we avoid shocks. You have heard, Annette, stories of people who say, Can you borrow me money? My wife is in hospital, she has given birth. You see, all these things happen because men are not supported to understand, I need a birth plan. And the birth plan is both what we are going to do, but also the money we need. We can plan for cesarean, but also we can plan for normal delivery. In the situation that we go to cesarean, we need to be ready. That is the purpose of the birth plan, so that we don't have shocks. We don't have shocks at all. We are there, we are present, and every step of the journey, we are providing the support that we are supposed to give in. But also a man during pregnancy is responsible for communicating with the unborn, because we know that in the last trimester, the unborn can respond to vibrations of sound. So there's work that a man is supposed to do from the first, the second, and the third trimester. So it is important that we continue to enlighten men to understand these things and be in position to play their role and play it effectively. That is how we build strong families. That is how we build strong nations. That is how we mold values. That is how we mold behavior. That is how we are going to succeed in getting men into the lives of children. That is quite important for men to really take in that information and be able to provide the support they need. That is how we are going to drive towards responsible fatherhood. That is how we are going to reduce the issue of runaway fathers, the issue of absentee fathers. Okay, we try to reduce. I'm not saying we can eliminate, because there are other factors that take men away. Like if your work is away, there's absolutely nothing you're going to do. Your work takes you away from the home. But even then, men are supported to understand, how do you still remain with the connection to be present in the lives of the children, but also in the present to your partner. Now, the second point I want to talk about, unless if you have questions on it, on the issue of presence. The second point I want to talk about is what we call partner support. It's closely linked to presence. Partner support is very, very important, not only to the partner, but also to the man himself. When the man is present and is able to do partners to support the partner, there's so many benefits that come out of that. Happiness comes out of that. Strengthening the relationship comes out of that. Strengthening the marriage comes out of that. Understanding each other comes out of that. Being able to tolerate each other comes out of that. But also to appreciate that we are all unique in our different abilities. Okay? Not to look at things and say, and just do stereotypes. Women are like that, men are like that, and many other things. Partner support is quite important, because we know women go through a lot of stress and so many body changes during pregnancy. Support to the partners. Okay? Men need to be there to run out at midnight, 1 a.m. to go looking for chicken and chips, because that is what your partner wants. It's not an issue of saying, no, don't this, but you need to understand these things, and then you are able to even take that courage and say, okay, let me go out and see if I can find an open shop at 1 a.m. and get you what you want. That is what we call partner support. But if men are not present, it is difficult to do the partner support. Now, men, because of gender stereotypes, think that their support is in terms of money. And that is where we have gone wrong for centuries. It's not really about money. We have the emotional support. That is very important, to support your partner go through all those the turbulence that comes with pregnancy. But also postpartum stress, the stress after giving birth. We need men to be present as much as possible to provide the support. Now, when we're talking about partner support, it allows us also to challenge cultural and social norms that take women away from their partners after giving birth. Because we strongly need to challenge those ones, because we want the men to be there to support the partner, to see their partner going through all this difficult thing. That is when we change the belief men have about women. That's what helps us to change that belief. When they provide the partner support, men will then begin to see women as equals. Women are strong. Women are valuable. Women are expensive. Men will understand that. So we work through parenting to try and get the men to really have a different picture about who a woman is and see a woman as a very valuable human being, away from what we know about what a woman is. Now, men who understand their role in parenting, okay, become very, very emotionally attached to their partners, but also to their children. And we know parenting is about what is the best interest of the child. That's what parenting is about. So when we advocate for men in parenting, we are trying to strengthen the best interest of the child. We're trying to bring the two persons responsible for parenting to do the best they can for the child. So partner support is very, very important for men to understand. And the many benefits that come out of partner support to the man himself, because you become less stressed as a man. Because now your emotional appeal becomes much, much stronger. Your emotional attachment to your partner, to your children becomes much, much stronger. And that's what we need to be able to shape and model behavior and values of children that we parent. So we have talked about presence and we have talked about partner support as part of men's role in parenting. Now, the third part and the most important part is preventing violence. Men have a huge role to prevent violence. Not only violence to children, but also gender-based violence. And that is why when we do the work with men and boys, we strongly say with evidence that parenting is a pathway to ending gender-based violence. Why? Because when we engage men in parenting, we appeal to the emotional attachment. That emotional attachment begins to see women differently. When they begin to see women differently, we are contributing to reducing gender-based violence. Men who are not in the lives of their children, men who are not present to support their partners, are men who will most likely have a different belief about women, and they will not hesitate to batter the women or to violate the rights of the women, because they just have a perception of where a woman is that is quite different. Okay? When we talk about men and parenting, it helps us get into structural issues, policies, and say, why does the law exclude men to be in the labor ward? Why? So then we advocate in that space and say, no, we need the law to allow the male partner in the labor ward, because there's so much learning men get when they're in the labor ward, looking at what is happening and seeing how much struggle and pain their partner is going through. That is powerful learning. That is powerful learning. So we need the law to allow that. We need the policies to allow that to happen, because it's a contributing factor for us to begin to tackle gender-based violence. So this is the strength of working with men in parenting. That is the strength of doing it. So in terms of preventing violence, we are talking with men because we know that the gender norms look at men as disciplinarians. Okay? They're the ones in charge of discipline. So how do they do that discipline? Then we interrogate discipline. What is the best way to do discipline in a home? Okay? Then we go into things like discipline versus punishment. What do you go for when you are parenting? Discipline versus punishment. What is the best way to help us teach and guide? Then we begin to question ourselves as men. and how we do things. But also we learn new skills. Okay, how am I supposed to discipline now? If I learn about punishment and discipline, then what is the alternative for me who wants to teach and guide my children to be well behaved, to have good values, and many other things? So it is important that men's role in preventing violence under parenting is highlighted. Okay? So men, because we know violence, we learn violence. All of us learn violence. And at what stage do we learn violence? We learn this violence when we are growing up. Those who are older and parenting us are the ones that teach us violence, are the ones that teach us when something goes wrong, when there's something you don't understand, this is how you respond. That's how we learn to be violent. So many times when I see violent conduct and many other things, I shudder, but I ask myself, how much are we doing about parenting? How much as a country have we done to make sure that parenting is not one of the ways that teaches violence? Because that is when we can slowly create a non-violent country. Once you have created non-violent children, it means your children love more than they hate. And hate has been one of those backbones of violence. Hate has been a backbone of racial discrimination. Hate has been a form of gender-based violence, because there are people who just hate women, but also there are women who just hate men. They don't want to deal with anything to do with a man. So you see, so parenting is an opportunity for us to break the cycle of violence so that we parent boys and girls who see each other as equals, boys and girls who make joint decisions, boys and girls who know that my side can be wrong and it is okay. We don't want to parent boys who know that I am always right. A woman can never tell me something and I follow it. All these things happen. We teach these during parenting. So it is important that men within parenting understand how can they behave and parent so that they break the cycle of violence. Once we put these three aspects together in parenting, then we're talking about men's role in parenting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hassan. I was still enjoying how you're connecting parenting from when a woman is pregnant to when the child is born, and and also supporting while the child is growing. And I know that even where you come from, there are a lot of things happening around families. And I wanted you to share more on co-parenting, because you are, as you're speaking about presence, we have to acknowledge that a lot of families are not together. We have a lot of families that are staying apart. And for reasons, we also have single mothers who some lost their spouses or their husbands or their fathers to their children, and they still struggle with parenting. I wanted you to share more on how best parents can co-parent if they happen not to be together for reasons, but there's a child who needs the support of a father and a mother in between there, and because it's something that is happens, and like it's something that we don't plan for, and also we find ourselves struggling to navigate. How best can you talk to parents that are willing probably even to parent, but are working in an environment? Because I've had a lot of stories where men bring issues. They are trying to parent, but then there are stumbling blocks around, women probably, or mothers want more of money than the presence, because now they are not with the fathers of the children, and then the father is like, I want, if I'm to give you support, I want probably to have my son, or I want you to, like there are conditions around parenting. So please share more on co-parenting.
Thank you, Annette. We now get into the challenges we face as we try to do parenting. But I would like to say that when we parent, we know that we are doing this in the best interest of the child, but also we should not forget that children have a right to belong to a family. The two adults need to know that it's the right of the child to belong to a family. So as they try to sort out their divergent views, they need to remember what is the best interest of the child. The best interest of the child is to belong to a family. Okay, that notwithstanding, we have single mothers, and I want to salute all the single mothers out there, because it's a tough job to be a single mother, to be a single parent. But also I have spoken to single male parents. I have spoken to them. Now, there are many reasons why we do parenting single-handedly. There are many reasons. Some of them are death, others are disagreements, and many, many other things. Now, what is important for us to know, whether you're a single parent, single mother, single father, what is important for us to know is this child in their life requires two figures, a male figure and a female figure. So if you are a single father, and I always talk to single fathers, if you have chosen not to remarry, that's a decision you have made. But please remember that these children, as they grow up for full psychological growth, they need two figures, the male and the female figure. If you are a mother and you are a single parent, please remember that these children that you are raising need two figures, a male and a female figure. Now, what do we do in this situation? Okay, we try as much as possible. For example, if you had disagreements with the father of the children, okay, we will not say that some disagreements are irreconcilable, okay? That's okay. But ask yourself, what am I going to do around the male figure in the life of this child, in the lives of these children? What am I going to do? Because they need a male figure, and the advantages have been researched, they're scientific, and many other things, okay? We will need to find, if I'm a single mother, I will need to find who is going to be the male figure. It can be their uncle, your brother, as the male figure for those children, because as they grow up, they need a male figure so that they harness the benefits of having a male figure as they're growing up. So you may want to talk to one of your brothers to act as the male figure if you're a woman in the lives of these children. That will help you parent very well as a single mother. If you're a man and you have chosen to parent your children, you may want to talk to your sister, to your auntie, to your mother to act as the female figure as these children are growing up. Because we want the children to get the benefits from the presence of the two figures, male and female. So that is what I am always telling single mothers and single fathers. It is important because you are parenting children. You are not parenting your interests as a single father or a single mother. You are not parenting your interests. No, you are parenting children, and you have to parent them in the best interest of the child. That is the most important thing. So that is how single mothers can cope parenting as single mothers. Okay, so that even as these children grow up, at least they have grown up and they have a balance of a female figure and a male figure. I've also spoken to some women and men who say, no, me, I can do it on my own. I have my money. Parenting is not about money only. That's not what parenting is about. And this is a mistake because we have gone to school, we have big jobs and powerful jobs, and we can find the money, we can take children to good schools. And that's not what parenting is only about. Parenting is not about provision. Parenting includes the psychological growth of children. That is important. You need to remember those. As you are so annoyed with the father of these children, with the mother of these children, please remember how to bridge the gap for the best interest of the children. Okay? Once we find solutions to bridging that gap, then we can comfortably say, I am a single mother, but you know that your parenting is in the best interest of the child. Because many times, children who grow up with fathers alone without a female figure will lack something. Psychologically, they will lack something. That's a fact, and it has been researched. Children who grow up with their mothers alone without a male figure will lack something as they grow up into adulthood. There will be something lacking. So parenting also involves the mental and psychological development of a child, and this requires a male and female figure. One of the quick examples I can give is that women will teach empathy to this child, okay? Men will teach this child risk-taking. These are two things that we need as we grow up. These are two things that we need as we grow up. Many times, women, because of how they are created, and they are more empathetic than men. But we know that to grow up, you are going to face risks. So there also has to be some teaching on risk-taking and how to manage risk and many other things. So that is why it is important that we have the male figure available. If the father is not available, that's okay. But can we have a male figure? Can we have a male figure? If the father is not available, if the mother is not available, can we have a male figure? So that these children who are growing up under our care are getting a balanced dose of growth. So that is what I can say about now. The issue of co-parenting, we have, you see, when we are dealing with the social transformation, there are many factors that help us to transit society, for the society to socially transit and transform. Now, laws is one of the catalysts for social transformation. Laws. Now, Uganda has laws around co-parenting. Okay? Normally, and I've mediated in many of these scenarios where there's a fight between the man and the woman about children. There's always this big fight. Once you talk to these people to appreciate the benefit of male and female figures in the lives of these children, and they still cannot respond, then we have to use the laws, because the laws help us in social transformation. Then we use the laws of the country to make sure that the male and female figure are present in the life of this child. And that is why the laws exist, because it is important. It's absolutely important. You can be annoyed with me, Annette, but I reserve the right to be in the lives of those children because I'm their father. So the earlier that two dissenting adults understand this, the easier they work out a way without us going to court. The easier they work out a way to co-parent the children, because of the many benefits that children get when they have both figures present in their lives as they grow up. Thank you very much.
For the interest of our viewer also understanding, you mentioned that you speak to boys and men on a daily basis, and based on your experience, besides the issues of the culture and the tradition, taming men to think that they are not responsible, or they are not the best people to parent, are there some other issues that have been raised by men that make them either neglect or unable to meet their responsibilities as parents? Because I think that it's important for us to also focus on those reasons, because most of these reasons are not understood by women, because we have a lot of cases on a daily basis on our table where women claim that men, because before they used to maybe provide, but then they are not present. But now they are not providing and they are not present. So are there issues, that specific issues that maybe men share when you speak to them on specifically why they are unable or they are neglected taking care of these responsibilities?
Yes, they are. And thank you for that one. The issue of provision globally, not only for us here, the issue of provision globally is a challenge in parenting. It's a big challenge. And the advocacy that we are doing around provision when we work with couples or people who are parenting is to say, can we, the ultimate goal is, can this provision role be a dual role? Dual. Okay? Because if we do not make provision as a dual role, then we are going to have situations where women are saying, he is not providing. Okay? We're going to have situations where men will say, I don't work, she works, why can't she provide? Because logically, it is not fair if I am not working to be put on gunpoint to provide. Logically, it's not fair. But if we can quickly understand that provision for a family is a dual role, then we are also supporting women to understand that we do not have to look up to men to do everything. And if they are unable to do everything, then they constitute an offense for not providing. Okay? Because that is why we have many of these cases. I work into police liaison departments, and most of the cases there are gender cases. He's not providing, he's neglecting us. But when you sit down with this man to really have a talk, a one-on-one talk, you find that the man has difficulties in being able to make money. Okay? Now, that is not appreciated by women who also still have a gender stereotype, men are providers. They cannot appreciate it, that men can fail to provide, because that is the biggest danger in gender stereotypes. That is the biggest danger that we get. Women will not appreciate that men can fail to provide. They will not, because they have grown up knowing men are providers. They must provide. Now, the moment you put it on me, I must provide. Now, problems start. If I am unable to provide, one, I'm going to be stressed. Now we're going into mental health issues for men. I'm going to be stressed. I'm going to attempt to take loans. I'm going to attempt to go and borrow. Then I end up committing suicide. So that is how dangerous the gender stereotype of men are providers is. So we need to interrogate that area and say, how do we transform this gender stereotype for the betterment of men, but also women and the children? How do you transform the gender stereotype so that both partners are equally responsible for provision and they reinforce each other? When one has, that's okay. When one does not have, that is okay. But also to jointly agree on things, that this is what we're going to do here, this is what we're going to do. I'm able to get this, I'm able to get this. So this conversation, the communication that drives a marriage, that drives a relationship, comes from the fact that men are present, men are supporting partners. That is where communication becomes such an important thing in driving relationships. But also, both of us, men and women, grow up in this gender stereotyped community, both of us. So we have our positions. We have been polarized. Women believe men should do this. Men believe women should do the parenting work. So when there's the bad behavior in children, then men are looking at women to say, that is your problem. You are raising children badly. When the provision is not there, no school fees, he is not providing. And so we end up having all these conflicts around family because we are polarized by gender stereotypes. So some of the things that men say are, I have been providing, yes, when I had a job and I had income. But currently, I have no job, I'm still looking for work. So if you mount pressure on me, a woman even told me in one of the discussions, how can he take 4 months without a job? Why can't he go and do all the jobs available like other men? So you see how the gender stereotypes polarize us and we take different directions. Instead of being able to understand each other and support each other to come out of the situation we are in, we take sides depending on our gender biases. So it is important that we, all of us, understand that these are stereotypes and we can be able to break them and create a new order that we follow that makes us human beings. Because my work with men and boys, I know for sure, Annette, men care. I know men care. That's a fact. So how do we then work from that perspective of men care to try and eliminate many of the things that women come to the women's initiative to say, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. If men do care, then we need to find ways of breaking the stereotypes around men so that we get the best out of everyone, so that we get the full potential out of everyone and be able to support from the best of the means that we have. Okay? Excluding the gender stereotypes. But also men say, excuse me, my woman earns more than me, but she wants me to provide for everything. I have no problem, my wife, my partner, earning more than me. Okay? But I am being forced to provide. Even when I can't provide, I do the very best I can, but I am still blamed for not providing. And yet my partner earns more than me. So you see, there's also a transformation that needs to happen on the women's side. But also a transformation needs to happen on the men's side. Otherwise, you have one side transformed and another is not transformed. Then we're still back and forth in the accusations. There will still be back and forth. So this is a process that requires both male and female to be on the table to discuss some of these issues. And then we can get the best out of these issues and find what is the best for us. Because what is the best for me and Annette cannot be good for Patricia and Moses. All of us need to find out what works for us and how do we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hassan, for sharing. And as we conclude our show, I was thinking, as you're speaking, I was thinking about the research and the paperwork that have been done around the parenting styles and probably what works for families. And I've read that there are a lot of parenting styles and ways that individuals use to parent. And considering our modern society, because a lot of things have changed, as we're sharing, the families are living differently depending on probably what they are earning, what they believe in, their beliefs and norms, and many things. Is there any specific style that you can share that has probably proven to work best for families or that families can adopt?
Thank you very much. Now, the issue of style is important because much of what you'll find on the internet works in the developed community and cannot fit into the African setting. So it is important that we understand how do we do parenting depending on different settings. Now, a style is going to be created by the people who are parenting. They are the ones who will create the style, because style is affected by socialization, how me as a male I was socialized and how the female was socialized. Remember, we are two people who are socialized differently from different families coming together to create another family. So then we have to forge a style, and that style should be able to accommodate our different socializations that we came up with. Me, I was socialized to behave differently, and Annette was also socialized to behave differently. So we need to create a style that fits the children that we have. So style is left to those who are parenting. But the underlying factor, let me use that word, the underlying factor is you people who are doing parenting. Do you understand when we say that parenting is about teaching and guiding? Because that is where the core is. Whether you are a high-end family or a poor family, do you understand teaching and guiding? Because permissive parenting is poor parenting. And this is what the middle class in Uganda is adopting. The middle class of Uganda is adopting permissive parenting. They are not doing parenting. They are not doing, okay, for lack of a word, they are not doing positive parenting. They are doing permissive parenting. And when I talk about permissive parenting, I'm saying the parent looks at a child and looks at them as if they're equals, and starts to relate with the child like as if they are relating with an adult equal. That way, a child is going to get spoiled because the parent expects that this child reasons and can make certain decisions. But the child is unable to do that. So they slowly get spoiled. They slowly have no guidance. No one is there to teach because the parent looks at the child as unequals. That is what we call permissive parenting. So whether you are very poor and you can't afford 2-3 meals a day, or you can afford 4-5 meals and a party every week, it doesn't matter. What matters is your role is to teach and guide. What do you teach is the question. You are teaching values. You are teaching behavior. And every society has behavior that is acceptable and behavior that is unacceptable. So when you parent, that is what you are teaching. You are teaching what is acceptable in that society. So that when this child leaves this family today and goes to school, their behavior will be acceptable in the school community. You are guiding so that children understand how they are expected to behave at home. For example, if a child, I know around 2-3 years, children like to climb a lot. They climb human beings, they climb chairs, they climb everything they climb. Even when visitors come, they will climb. So if you don't guide children, they will think that you just climb anything anyhow. So before you know it, a parent has come and they are climbing, they're on top of the head, they're on shoulders. Then the question is that acceptable behavior? Have you guided children to behave in the acceptable way? So for me, the most important thing is understand what your role is as a parent. It is to teach and to guide. Why? Because these children their brain has not got to a level where they are able to decipher, reason, and make judgment. That is where you are there to teach and guide them so that they are making informed decisions, so that their behavior is guided behavior. So that is important, very, very important. Then we shall create a style, and style is affected by religious beliefs, will affect style. Cultural backgrounds will affect the style that you use. And I'm not saying that parenting should not challenge culture and religion. Parenting should be able to be equal parenting. Okay? You should be able to offer equal parenting for boys and for girls, but the style will be affected by religion, will be affected by culture. Those are the things that will affect. I have seen families that have money. Children, as long as they are 10 years old, they have access to a smartphone or they have access to a tablet. Even when they are 3-year-olds can swipe on a phone and on a tablet, they are able to swipe. So the question is, how do you teach and guide these children? Because we know from science, children at 3 years old need only 1 hour around television a day. So you, the parent, the moment you decide and say that TV is going to be my parenting style, just put on cartoon and let the child be there in the sitting room, you are wasting the child, because they're going to have too much time on television. Before you know it, if they're school going, they have an English accent similar to the cartoons. And for you, if you are not an observant parent, you will think, this school is wonderful. They are teaching my children how to speak good English. But they are picking things from the cartoons. And that's how they want to sound like cartoons, because they're spending too much time. One of the things that children are supposed to do is to play. To play. Being on TV is not playing. Child psychological growth and physical growth is around playing. Get the children outside to play and get dirty. You are doing parenting. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hassan, and we are so humbled that you accepted to speak to us today and to share this information, because I know that a lot of parents need it. A lot of those that are preparing to be parents are yearning to learn and to understand these issues, and that's what we strive to do as the Women's Voice. And for our viewer, thank you so much for being with us today. We cannot go beyond this because we know that you have also other things to do, and this is the Women's Voice. Please share this platform. We're on Facebook, on YouTube channel, and then on Twitter. And please, for those that have missed, they can be able to watch this show. And may God bless, and please stay safe.